Let's consider the two ways we tend to overthink. We overthink meditation itself, believing in the cessation of thought, when in reality, the folly of the cessation of thought is that it indulges our controlling tendencies. Our controlling tendencies are a subset of the yang attributes of being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything is crap, including meditation instruction. So that would infer that only about 10% of the meditation teachers out there do so from the worldview or through the lens of yin, the key to peace, which is being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So if we're being laid back, we're not going to try to control our perceptions, or emotions, or intentions, or thoughts, or memories, or imaginings. Well, then, what do we do as we sit cross-legged upon our meditation cushion? We begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access, I also make sure that my face isn't obscuring things. Okay. We access our sympathetic nervous system, which is ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord corresponding to our rib cage. It has not evolved to support active concentration, but the opposite. It has evolved to support simply perception. Perception that is vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random. As we see explained in the 12-syllable phrase, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. So with each in-breath, we are optimized to observe our perceptions of sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, as well as our emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. It's not our job to blank our mind. Au contraire, the Buddha taught that the first enlightenment factor is mindfulness. The first enlightenment factor is to notice the three-ring circus between our ears. Of course, this begs the question, what are we to do with that which we perceive? And that, of course, brings us to the answer to the question, how does meditation work? Now, of course, if I was a wise ass, I would say, very well, thank you. But gladly, or luckily, I'm not a wise ass. So during each exhalation, whether we know it or not, we are wired to access our parasympathetic nervous system, occupying both the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord as well as the tippy top of its cervical region. It is wired to support both our physical relaxation as well as our mental release, as is inferred in the 12-syllable statement, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. So all we have to do to meditate is to allow our 3-pound supercomputer between our ears to get out of the way of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems already latent within our spinal cord. That's why we play with really clever wordings. Some 12 syllables long, some 3 syllables long, some just 1 syllable long. So if we figure it out, if we've just leapt over the obstacle of overthinking meditation, then what is the second thing we typically overthink? Well, that's ethics. Think for a moment, if you will, to the second reel of Revenge of the Sith. There's Dooku on his knees at Anakin's mercy. Anakin is holding both his and Dooku's lightsabers crossed just below Dooku's chin. He's panting. Dooku is panting. The Chancellor is smiling. And he says, and of course I can't really imitate the Chancellor, "Good, Anakin. Good. Now kill him." And poor Anakin at this point is just a shell of a man. His response is, "That is not the Jedi way." And that is such a weak reason not to do something. Identity, morality will not help us in a pinch. So what is the surest way to know what to do is right? The fringe benefit of a healthy, consistent meditation practice, where we're meditating effectively at least for 5 minutes at a pop, at least once every 12 hours or so, is that we experience the highest love, which is spontaneous and uncontrived. One of my spiritual heroes, the late Karma Chakme Rinpoche, taught that the highest morality is simply non-violence. Perhaps that is why 50% of the Eightfold Path pertains simply to loving kindness. No deep philosophies, no asceticism, loving kindness. The Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet teach that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. This centered spontaneity, not scattered spontaneity, but this centered spontaneity is the key to ethics. I was recently watching an analysis of the Dead Poets Society, which came out a very long time ago. And one of the protagonists in the ensemble piece is portrayed as having taken his free-spiritedness too far. And I wish the author would have gone a different way. That the problem with his free-spiritedness was not that it went too far. The problem was that it was scattered and not centered. Scattered spontaneity is like feeding a kid a quart of chocolate milk, having him spin around his grandma's living room, and then be surprised when he pukes. It is from centered spontaneity that the greatest choices and utterances and deeds flow effortlessly. And to explore that further, I'd like to share with you the 31st verse of the Total Space of Vajrasattva by Prahe Vajra, who is considered to be the first teacher of Dzogchen, and for whom this is the source text of all Dzogchen. Please chant with me. In the outer and inner samayas or commitments to rely upon our teachers' example, instructions, and students. Abide in the nature of the aggregates of all feeling, appraisal, impulse, and awareness, and sense bases of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, emoting, intending, cognizing, recalling, and imagining. Since in the three times no one is ever separate from it, there is no need to ever use the word samaya. Well, that is a whole lot of words. What the hell is he trying to say? Sure, this idea called ethics. There's nothing special to it. We are already wired to plug in to love's centered spontaneity. When we live in peril, we dwell in the bottom of our brain, the seat of fear and aggression, which is the antithesis of ethics. When we live from a place of centered spontaneity, loving choices, loving words, loving deeds flow effortlessly. We are already wired for mindfulness and meditation due to the interplay of our inhalation, our exhalation, and our autonomic nervous system. Therefore, we don't need to make a big deal out of ethics. Just make a big deal out of living in cooperation with our Buddha nature. Now, I see a question on the left-hand side of the screen, and Mr. James Monhan was wondering, hello, Lama. I was wondering if self-worth is ego-driven or something different. Thanks. You're welcome, James. Here's the deal. So I'm going to sadistically subject you and everybody else in YouTube land to jumbo face. So I'm not a big fan of the phrase ego or self. I think it's based on a lot of misconceptions, and it's a tool that many manipulative people use to torment good-hearted people. So the question is simply this. Are we flowing from love's centered spontaneity, or are we stuck in one of the two extremes? The extreme of contrivance or the extreme of scatteredness? Both these extremes will fuck us up, but not in the fun, tingly way. In the 70s, they got very excited about the idea of self-esteem. But that's because they weren't practicing neuroscience. They were practicing philosophy and calling it psychology. And that philosophy was rooted in Western Judeo-Christian theology, and which is influenced deeply by the Emperor Constantine, who just wanted ways to rally the riffraff. Hence, he influenced the translation of Scripture, or the retranslation of Scripture, to emphasize belief. Belief is a rigidity of mind and emotion that does more harm than good. A contemporary bastard child of the idea of self-esteem is self-love. And unless they're using it as a euphemism for diddling the bean, typically they're using it for self-care. And it's predicated upon the idea of having really, really lofty reasons to take care of ourselves. We don't need lofty reasons. The best reason is simple. When you're in an airplane, they warn you that in the unlikely event of a loss of cabin pressure, air masks will drop from the overhead compartment. If you're with a child or a disabled person, secure your mask first, which to me feels like a face grabber from the Alien franchise, and then secure the face mask on the person next to you. There's nothing metaphysical about it. It's purely pragmatic. If you are losing consciousness because of hypoxia, you cannot at all effectively meet the needs of others. So if our love is trenchant, if it is pragmatic, it's going to be simple. And we'll all come to the same conclusion. If I'm a shithead, I can't help people. If I'm so exhausted I can't think straight, I can't help people. If I am a raving lunatic due to sleep deprivation, I can't help anybody. And so the best reason to practice self-care is just pragmatism. I love the people around me. I can only meet their needs if I possess a modicum of sanity, modicum of lucidity, a modicum of health. I therefore behave as a responsible adult so that I can meet others' needs. So we've gone off on the tangent of self-care or self-love. Let's go back to the idea of self-esteem. Some people will say, don't think about yourself at all. If you think about yourself, you've already failed. To which I would say, dude, take a break. Have a Snickers. Eat an apple. Other people say, you have to be so impressed with yourself. You think you're the most awesome person on the earth. What, and wind up like President 45? No, thank you. Listen, Donald Trump was weaned on the idea of the power of belief and the power of self-love. And he has become the poster child of what happens when you take those teachings too enthusiastically. So our job is neither to hate ourselves, our job is neither to ignore ourselves, our job is neither to love ourselves. Unless you're having a date, and that's completely different. But 9 times out of 10, when we talk about loving ourselves, we're not talking about masturbation, we're talking about just having ridiculously high self-esteem. That is not the key to wisdom or happiness. So what is? Simply this. Cooperate with your sympathetic nervous system in harmony with your inhalation. Cooperate with your parasympathetic nervous system in harmony with your exhalation. Do this formally for at least 5 minutes, at least once every 12 hours or so. Live your life in a way that supports that. You know, eating a whole food vegan diet, getting plenty of sleep, fresh air, sunshine, exercise, sun on your skin, the whole enchilada. So, you do that, you're going to feel like $1,000,000, and you're going to be more resourceful emotionally and intellectually and physically. The idea that we are the sum of our beliefs means well, but it's not grounded in reality. We are big-headed animals. We exhibit the exact same range of emotions as mice. And when they do comparative studies of our brains, they are remarkably similar. Our emotions are not the results of our beliefs. They're the results of what's going on as our brain is interfacing in the world around it through the lens of survival and competition and cooperation. These are hardwired into us. To be your best self, cooperate with your autonomic nervous system in a way that supports the highest love, which is spontaneous and uncontrived, and supports the proper functioning of the entire body and the entire brain, including our glorious prefrontal cortex. 2 students going to take a test. One has been up all night long for 2 days. He's so tired, he's hallucinating. The other, man, he had a good night's sleep and a blowjob. He's ready to go. He's had a tall cup of coffee. He feels like the king of the world. But between these 2 guys, assuming they both have had the same amount of study, who do you think is going to perform better? Well, the second guy, of course. Similarly, what we feel about ourselves does not control anything. It is not the cause of anything. It is the result of many things, including self-care, including physical self-care and neurological self-care. I hope that makes sense. If I have been opaque or confusing, please let me know, and I'll take another swing at it. I look forward to chanting and meditating with you after about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent more than 8 hours a day, every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings, techniques of each school of Buddhism so that you won't have to. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. This evening, we're going to do a really fun practice. Well, I think it's fun, but I'm a big weirdo. Who knows what you'll think? We're going to have a remarkably concise chant. We're just going to basically chant we're going to play with the ideas of empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge. We're going to do so first in a very literal fashion, and we're going to set this recitation to a triplet chant. Together. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee, Buddha's example, instructions, and students. So these three things, the three objects of comparison, are so useful. They've earned the metaphoric nickname of the three wish-fulfilling jewels. We come now to our last chant prior to meditating. It's going to play with the same ideas, but in a more concise and figurative manner, and we're chanting it this time, or reciting it this time, with a bookend chant. Together. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. As children, the first bike we received most likely had training wheels, and although they were clunky and ungainly, they got the job done. Similarly, we're going to start this evening's practice with the clunky practice of silently and mentally reciting, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind during each inhalation, and then silently and mentally reciting, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature during each exhalation. Let's remove the first of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce our exercise from 12 syllables down to just 3. During each perceptive inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite and notice this. And during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. There will be times when we feel great resistance towards our circumstances or our body or our relationships or our mind. We can transcend that resistance through the cunning use of mindfulness labels. I've prepared 10 for you pertaining to sights, sounds, feelings, flavors, sense, emotion, intention, thought, memory, and imagining. Now, it's not our job to obsess over finding the perfect label within the perfect amount of time. Remember, life is messy. We were born naked, screaming, and covered in goo. Meditation is also messy. It's okay to have a shallow learning curve. Now let us remove the second of two metaphoric treading wheels, reducing our exercise from 3 syllables down to just 1. During each perceptive inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During each relaxing exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease. Clearly, when reducing 3-syllable labels down to 1 syllable, some poetic license is required. When we are working with physical sensations, we can play with the noun form. When we are working with their emotional counterparts, we can play with the verb feel. When we are working with memories, we can play with the preposition then. And when we are working with imagination, we can play with the verb dream. Now that we're up to speed, together as a team, let us meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal. Welcome to this evening's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. In the interim, during each inhalation, when we are wired to perceive, you can silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. And during each exhalation, when we're wired to release, you can silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. I check for questions approximately once every 9 minutes or so. Let us seal this evening's practice with a bit of the old chanting, beginning with kind ethics and then concluding with the 4 immeasurables. May all beings practice have kind communication, conduct, and calmness, flow spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.